Good evening. Thank you for joining me. See you in the chat room, Jamar. If you can hear me, let me know. Loud and clear. All right. Good deal. All right. Well, tonight we're going to make a wait for a little bit longer, turn this music a little bit lower, and we'll actually go through Tupac discussion tonight, and we'll actually, it's going to be mainly about Suge Knight tonight, so won't be a lot about Tupac, but enough about him as far as, I mean, it's always about Tupac. I mean, it all revolves around Tupac. Without Tupac, none of this exists. The stories don't exist. The people don't exist. Nothing exists. Record company doesn't exist. Period. So there'll be some element tonight with that. So I'm gonna give it couple more minutes. Start about 10:05 if you're in the central time zone. I'm in Chicago right now, so I'm in the time zone, Chicago. So that'll be it. Besides that, how's everybody doing tonight? Is everybody doing good? Everybody doing wonderful? I wasn't a live stream last week, but got caught up in some things. But decided to do it this week to get caught up. A lot of things coming down the pipeline, as usual. Some news stories and some trivial stories that I guess we can discuss about. Just very, very trivial. So just about one more minute, and then we'll get started here. But thank everybody for being here tonight. I know you could have been anywhere else, and a lot of people are probably watching the basketball game right now. The Warriors and the Portland Trailblazers. I know they were winning at one point, but they're probably lost the lead, if anything. So, and I see everybody here. It's in here tonight. I'm all over 50 states. No, not really. I travel for my job, for what I do, and I'm here and there. So, yeah. So tied a minute ago. Okay, got you. All right. No, I just travel a lot. I think maybe some of you have already guessed already. Military, but some other things are going on, so I won't speak in too much into any of that other stuff. But thanks for being here tonight, and it looks like we're just gonna get started now. Gonna just go ahead and get it going because I know some of you got to work tomorrow or whatnot. So, and I don't know where everybody's at right now, but you want to shout out where you're from, kind of get an idea of where you are. Jamar, I know where you're at. You're in somewhere in Washington. And Whiskey the Don, I have no idea where you're at. So let's see here. Australia. Wow. Okay. That's quite a ways. All right. So anyways, we're going to get started here. Going to go ahead and just jump into it. And last week, if you weren't on the show and if you didn't listen in, we did a recap of Keefe D's book, and we won't spend too much time on that. But as in Tupac news and Deathrow news this week, if you haven't already read it or heard it, K. Michelle is going to record on the new Deathrow records. Now, I don't know if Deathrow records even exists. And at one point, Wide Awake purchased Deathrow records. And then after that, they filed bankruptcy and sold to E1. And then E1 is, I don't know if they're the default Deathrow records or if even Deathrow records is even existent. But anyhow, she says she's going to record her album on Deathrow records. And essentially, she just kind of speculated about just her love and her admiration for Deathrow records and for Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight and just the whole record label in general. So kind of nice to hear that, I guess, if Deathrow Records does exist, and I'm sure you can touch up on that out there in the chat land, and you can let me know if Deathrow Records still exists. Is it E1's property, or is it just something that she's just saying? So that was in yesterday's news for Deathrow Tupac related material. And then just to do a recap on the Keefe D book, if anybody went and read the Keefe D book after all, went and spent their $10 and went and gave it a 1-star rating or whatever it was that you gave, and if there was any information in there that was compelling or whatnot. So everybody, okay, you read it. Whiskey the Don read the book. What's good? I buy houses. Welcome, Daniel Davis. Welcome again, Jamar. So you read the book. There was some information in there. I mean, getting mixed reviews. People are saying they don't believe it. Others say that, it's the truth, whatever. I don't personally believe the book. But what I will say is this. I'll make a point here, and you can go ahead and second on that, is that the book came out. He told a story. And if the Las Vegas, and here's a real thought to really think about. If Las Vegas Metropolitan PD really believed the story, and I'm sure somebody has gotten a hold of the book that's associated with that case somewhat, or just in general, came across it, got the book, started reading it, and of course, Keefe D spills his guts about supposedly what happened September 7th, 1996. And with that being said, if indeed that was the case, then they would just pretty much come out and just say, you know what, this is the closest thing to the truth. This is what it is. We will never be able to prosecute anybody. He's telling the truth. But if you've ever thought about it, and if you've ever realized that not one single police officer from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department has ever come out and publicly say that they agree with Greg Kading's investigation or they believe Keefe D's story. I mean, they could just pretty much point blank come out and say, we believe this story, this is the truth. Whether or not we're going to officially close the case, this is the closest thing to the truth. But again, as I mentioned before, and if you really sit down and think about it, and if you go back and you look at it, has there been one police officer that has come out from Las Vegas, and said that this is the closest thing to the truth? They've had all these years. They've had 20 plus years to say this, and just to kind of put people's minds to rest if this was the truth, whether or not they're going to prosecute anybody, as I mentioned. But nobody's ever come out and said it. Brent Becker never said it. Nobody said it. All the police that were involved in the investigation never said it. They always said it was an open case, even with the confession. And then the confession that Keefe D, I guess he has immunity. I don't know if it's federal immunity or if it's state immunity. But essentially, if Las Vegas wanted to prosecute him now, they certainly could. I mean, he's omitting again this information. He's admitting it to them, to the world, but nobody seems to care and nobody seems to believe him. So there again, there's something deeper that's going on. I mean, we can't go down a rabbit hole and say what it is. But what we can do and what we can believe or what we can think is that Keefe D's story seems to be a bit of fiction, and a lot of the stuff that he talked about was embellished. So anyhow, those are my thoughts on that, on the book. As I mentioned, Las Vegas Metropolitan PD never came out. Case is still open. Never closed. Still open. So there's that. That's that. The end. So anyhow, if you got $10 and you want to spend $10, waste $10, then you certainly may. But you can probably find it already online. It's being bootlegged everywhere. And if you do a Google search, you can find it. There may be somewhere where somebody has already put it out. And I'll leave it at that. So we're going to be jumping in. But I want to just see who's in here right now into the chat room. Chris MB Burke, welcome, sir. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to read a few comments here. And before we jump in, because the last time it was fairly new, nobody had read the book yet. The book had just come out. What do you think about the book? I mean, everybody that's read it, give me your opinion on what you think about the book. Do you think it's full of what, or is it something that you may believe, possibly, or what do you believe in your heart is to be the truth? In a quick synopsis, you don't have to actually say the whole story that you believe, but you can kind of shorten it down. So, Whiskey the Don, Keefe said that Pac reached for a gun, and that's why he shot. So he says he reached for a gun. So if this gun was supposed to be in a secret compartment, is what they've been saying all these years, it would have been pretty hard for it to come out of the secret compartment because I'm sure it's not something that's very robust and streamlined to where if you hit a button it just opens up and a gun pops out. I think that this is kind of maybe be motorized, and it takes a little while for a gun to pop out. So if Tupac pulled a gun out, then whatever. But there again, it just kind of seems like you're just adding on more to a story that we don't know is true or not. I mean, I'm just speaking in general terms here. I don't believe the story, but if you believe the story, then the story is that Suge Knight locked eyes with Keefe D, and this was kind of like a movie. They locked eyes and had enough time to sit there and recognize each other, and then supposedly they started shooting, and this all happens. So the guns that were in the stash box, supposedly, right? They go back. Somebody's gonna have to go to the impound and pick the car up. The police are never gonna find the car because the car is going straight to the impound. And then the police would have found some guns inside of a stash box. They would have been let known. They would have not waited till somebody come and pick the car up and say, "Hey, we found some guns. You're under arrest." Besides that, if a police officer goes and picks the guns up, think about this one: if there was guns at night in the BMW, and if somebody goes and picks a car up, whether it be a civilian or a police officer, non-felon, if you're non-felon, you have nothing to worry about. If the guns are legal and there's nothing, the guns aren't hot, then if you go pick up the BMW and you're a civilian with no felony, or if you're a police officer, what are they going to do to you? Nothing. So the story about being scared to go pick the guns up in the car because the cars, obviously the guns weren't found yet or didn't get found, to me seems like a far-fetched fantasy that some people tell, that they were afraid that they were going to go pick the gun up, the guns in the stash box, and they were going to get arrested or something of that nature. So anyhow, besides the point, we got it there. So I'll read a few comments there, and then we got the next one. This person believes Keefe only said that to try to claim self-defense. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's premeditated. There's no such thing. Think about it like this, okay? If Keefe D did go and look for Tupac and seek Tupac with his gang of homies, and they want to go and kill him, then it's premeditated. It's not something like you're just rolling down the block and you see somebody who you have problems with and they pull out their gun and you pull out their gun and you shoot them. The premeditation is them going and looking for him, if that's what the story is. So the whole thing about self-defense flies out the window. It's premeditated because they actually went and looked for them, if you believe that story. So there again. So here we go. Orange Soda's Revenge. Surveillance all over Vegas eliminates all bogus theories. I feel that. So there had to be a lot of surveillance, especially, and it's kind of odd that we talk about surveillance and they never released a lot of the tape that was being recorded there at the MGM. And there's cameras everywhere, and those cameras continue to roll, and they continue to record even when there's different angles that are alternating between different parts of the hotel. So there's a lot more evidence about where Tupac was at. Even when he came around the corner and the fight started, there has to be another angle that recorded that angle. But it's being suppressed by who, we don't know. They always speculate it was David Kenner. Who knows? All we know is that there's a lot of missing pieces to the puzzle, and there's somebody who doesn't want you to see those pieces of the puzzle. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell as far as the Keefe D thing, the September 7th thing, and everything that happened that night. There's a whole lot more to it. I mean, there's two sides of the story all the time. Depends on what you want to believe. But anyhow, we're moving to the next scene. The next scene is going to be, and I don't always have the juicy stories. I don't always have the best stories, and I don't always have these grand conspiracy theories that I'm going to talk about. or anything of that nature. Just relative news that nobody's ever talked about before, nobody brings up, and then some really telling and interesting piece of information that you can look at and you can kind of decide what it is that you believe or don't believe. So, anyhow, moving into the next scene, we're going directly to Suge Knight and all his real estate and all his houses that he's owned over the years before he's met his demise and ended up running over two individuals and then going to prison. So here we go, and we'll go ahead and talk about this. So here's a story that came out many years ago, and a lot of people didn't ever talk about it. But essentially, Suge Knight has always been in the news, and we all know that. He's always been in the news. So we're going to go to, and I'll just read the excerpts here. So Suge tried to bring his gangster management to corporate America, and it only lasted for so long. Prior to his arrest, Suge was living in a luxurious lifestyle with every amenity available at the moment's notice until Tupac's passing, leading to a serious decline in Mark jail time, child support payments, and barely making ends meet. This is all contrasted with his partner, Dr. Dre, who helped start Deathrow Records, who was close to a billionaire after the sale of his headphone company, Beats by Dre. So we'll pretty much go down the line here, and you'll take a look at all his houses. There's some strange things that I'll read to you, and you can kind of make your own judgment on what you think it is. But there's a common theme here when it comes to a certain amount of money, and this certain amount of money has been talked about in different, maybe one recording that I heard, but it always seems to be it's like the magic number. So anyhow, we'll get right into it. That's what it is. The second scene. So we'll just jump right back in, and we'll go to the next scene here. And that was just an intro for you. So here are the house's details. So there's going to be some commentary there, some literature there that you can read. But I'm pretty much going to read off what it is, these houses, where all his houses that he's ever owned from the infancy of Deathrow Records all the way until his demise and when he went to jail or prison or whatever. I don't know if he had too much left as far as when he was out, but I mean, he still, I'm certain he was living okay, not too bad. There's certain royalties or something rolling in from somewhere. So anyhow, this is 11, 206 Home Avenue from Linwood. The house measures 3 bedrooms, 2 baths on 1,534 square feet on total size of 6,586 square feet. Built in 1948. Suge and his mom, Maxine, rest in peace, Maxine, purchased December 10th, 1993. Now, that wasn't too far after Deathrow Records had started. We had the Chronic album that came out, and then, of course, Snoop Doggy Dogg's album, this first one, Doggy Style. So this property, records get sketchy, as the property was sold on March 15, 2001. And I don't know if that was before or after Suge Knight got out of jail. I don't have those details with me, but I'm sure somebody could chime in on that. Which seems odd from Suge's sister, Karen Anderson, and her husband, Norris Anderson, who would be the general manager of Deathrow Records, when Suge was in jail, to Suge Knight's ex-girlfriend, Tammy Hawkins. Terry Hawkins, or as we know, a.k.a. Teresa Swan, who recently asked for child support payments for her son back in 2010. Somehow the property transferred back to Karen Anderson on February 26, 2004, which has remained the owner ever since. So it looks like that was one of his first houses there. And it looks like they kind of play a money game or a property game. And I think that's probably somewhere where you can hide your money is in real estate. So essentially they were pretty much bouncing that back and forth. And then, of course, like you said, for $1,000 is what the property was sold to Karen Anderson on March 15th, 2001. So we'll continue on. We have the next house, which was one of Suge's other properties here. And this one is going to be, if you look at it, it looks like a pretty nice house. Not too bad. And we're going to get some details here. Sorry about that. This is the whole slew of information here of houses that Suge Knight owned. And this one was 3229 Rambla, Pacifico Street, Malibu. And this was a 7-bedroom, 9.5 bath. 9.5 bath, picture that. 9.5 bathrooms. How many people do you need 9.5 bathrooms? The property was purchased by Suge Knight in April of 2002 for $3.7 million. Property records show also that Suge transferred this property to Michelle A. on July 10th, 2002. On July 22nd, 2004, a federal lien of $8 million was assigned against the property. On April 7th, 2005, Suge assigned a federal tax lien against the property for $7.9 million. Eventually, the property was sold through bankruptcy court on November 21st, 2008 for $4.5 million. And this property was discussed in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know why it was discussed in the Wall Street Journal, but you can probably figure that one out. Next property up was 4808 Brewster Drive, Tarzana. And I'm gonna go down the line here, find my place here for this. He had several $1 million properties. It didn't work out for him though, but that's another story. So 4808 Brewster Drive, Tarzana. The home measures 4 bedrooms, 5 baths on 4,590 square feet on a total lot size of 0.91 acres, built in 1953. Last sold on May 21st of 1997. That was roughly a year after Tupac passed. 6 months rather, for $840,000. The property records are sketchy, but it appears that Suge sold the house on July 28th, 2000 for $73,000, which contradicts the sale price just mentioned, 1997. It appears that Suge owned the home in the early 90s, but not too sure of the exact purchase price and date. So the house was sold in 1997, I guess, to him for $840,000. And then essentially he sold it for $73,500. Interesting. Anyways, I'm going to keep going here with this. You can keep going. It's pretty interesting so far. A lot of houses that he owned, bought for a lot of money, and ended up selling them for dirt cheap, or back to family members for not even pennies on the dollar. Because I mean, if you buy a house for $160,000 and sell it for $1,000, that's kind of sketchy. Anyhow, moving on. We're going back to 6980 Monte Rose Avenue, Las Vegas. Now, I can only assume that this was the house that they went back to after the brawl at the MGM Grand, and had been there for, I believe it was about an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatnot. So this is the last place that Tupac would spend his time with Suge Knight rather than the car, before that fateful night when they were driving down Flamingo and Colval. So this is 6808 Monte Rosa Avenue. And as I said before, this is not a juicy story. I mean, it could be if you wanted to be, but basically it's just information that you can kind of gather. And if you can kind of tell, there's some shady activity, buying houses and selling houses. But I buy houses. Good thing you're here, because you can really relate to a lot of this, and you can speak on it more than I can as far as houses is concerned, because you buy houses and you're a real estate agent. So 6980 Monte Rosa Avenue. This is Las Vegas. And I got to find my spot here, and I apologize about that. It's just, of course, this isn't stuff that I remember. I'm just essentially reading on it. So anyhow, this home measures 6 bedrooms, 6.5 baths on 5,215 square feet on a total of 1.05 acres, built in 1992. The property was purchased by Suge on April 26, 1996. So this was about maybe 4 or 5 months before Tupac ended up passing away. But he bought it for $1.6 million at the peak of Deathrow Records. The property was later sold or transferred to his ex-wife, Michelle A., married in 1999 with a daughter born in 2002. On May 19, 1988, for $1.2 million, representing a $425,000 loss. However, on October 21st, 2004, the property was sold by Michelle A. for $1.2 million during a time when Deathrow was on the verge of bankruptcy. Michelle A. was a former rapper that started on World Class Wrecking Crew, with one of the original members being Dr. Dre, who was Michelle A.'s boyfriend at the time. Later on, Dr. Dre and Michelle A. signed with Eazy-E, Ruthless Records, who eventually landed Deathrow Records. Today, You can find Michelet on TV1, R&B Diva LA. And on a related note, this home was searched by Las Vegas Metropolitan PD on November 14, 2002. Also, this home was used in the Robert De Niro film Casino. Very interesting. So it was a private gated entrance. So basically, this house right here was Suge Knight's house in Las Vegas. So you hear the story of him selling the house, trying to get rid of it, trying to make some money, trying to not lose money, whatever it may be. It's all the same. So we're going to move to the next house, and we're getting pretty close to the end here. This is the 8243 Thoroughbred Street, Rancho Cucamonga. The home measures, and this is a 4-bedroom. And I am not sure, and this is what the author writes on this, I am not sure if when Suge Knight acquired his property, which would be sometime in the 90s, but a sale did take place on September 7th, 1990. However, property records show a transfer to Tammy Hawkins on January 26, 2001, which may have been a transfer from Suge with a familiar odd sale transaction in the amount of $10,000. Today, it is available as a short sale for $700,000, which was first listed, and this was back in 2014. Interesting. So, Tammy Hawkins again coming up. The amount of $10,000 and above doesn't get flagged for anything when it comes to, certain investigations. And we've all heard that one. If it's under 10,000, then you don't have to worry about it. But I think they're getting a little stricter on the guidelines that the feds set on money deposits and suspicious money deposits. And we all know about the suspicious money deposits. Anything under 10,000, you can get away with it. Anything over will get flagged. And we know a few people who've gotten caught making deposits of under $10,000. Carrying on. Next one, and this is the best one of them all. And this is 8605 Street, 7th Street, Downey. I apologize about that. Trying to keep up here with this. And this is the most interesting one of them all. And going to find my place here. And you're going to like this one. So the home was built, measures 4 bedrooms on 2,765 square feet on a total lot size of 9,690 square feet, built in 1957. The property was purchased by Suge and his mom, Maxine, on January 12, 1995 for $370,000 and later sold on April 19, 2006 for $950,000 to Suge's sister, Charlinda Tubbs. The property was sold again as a short sale for $475,000 on September 7, 2001. In the most recent listing picture show there is a large mural of Suge Knight over the fireplace. And I thought that was the interesting one, but it wasn't. And this is the last one here. And then there's one that I don't have mentioned or have listed here, but I think it'd be very interesting to know. So this is one of Suge Knight's last known properties. This was at 11264 Morrison Street, number 301. This was in North Hollywood. Suge may have stayed at this apartment as a hideaway or for girlfriends, but the details and records are not available since this is a rental. So take it with a grain of salt. I always heard there was a story about a certain person who somebody was staying with somebody at a rental or something of the nature. It was a rental, it was in somebody's name, and who knows? All I know is that essentially Suge Knight, his name is being bashed on as of lately. People calling him a snitch. I'm trying to wonder why people are calling him a snitch. Is he really snitching, or is he going to say something that's more revealing, that's going to implicate other people in certain things? And that's the crazy thing about it all, is that after everything that Suge Knight did, and everybody knew what they were getting involved in. Everybody knew that they were essentially in a criminal enterprise. They were in a record company. They were making money, but they had a lot of gangster philosophies. And everybody knew what the risks were as far as gangbanging out there in the streets. Everybody knew that if they had to take a part in some kind of crime, that it could essentially come back to them later on in life. And a lot of it did. It went full circle. And now Suge Knight's this bad guy, and he's a snitch now. He's a real snitch. That's what everybody says, and they talk bad and down on him. But nobody was saying that when they were taking his money. So there's a little bit of conflict of interest there as far as that's concerned. But anyhow, right now I'm looking for Tupac's house that Suge Knight purchased, and it's a pretty good story on that one. And I'm trying to find it here, but just going into the chat here, we have I buy houses. What they do is transfer the house to the trust or LLC, which typically will sell it to the new LLC for $1,000. It helps with protecting the house and the other benefits. Danny Boy spoke about this condo. What exactly did Danny Boy speak about on this condo? What did he say on the condo? And then Michelet stayed there. So when you say Michelet stayed there, what house are we talking about? There was another house that was also that we didn't quite there. Actually, it's this one here, and I think I may have passed that one up, and I believe I did. That one was sold for $1,000 as well to Tammy Hawkins. So the house was sold to his girlfriend Tammy Hawkins on October 27, 2000. Shortly after the property was sold for $1,000 on November 20th, 2006, and a month later at a foreclosure auction for 4.4 million. And then this property sold last for 3.3 million. This was back in April of 28 of 2001. Sorry, I'm pretty much going fast through this. Don't want to bore you with these things about, or actually real estate transactions with Suge Knight and him transferring money and transferring over whatever to Tammy Hawkins under 10,000. Like I said, that's a common theme, under $10,000. Tammy Hawkins, Norris Anderson, kind of just transferring monies and transferring houses to one another. Of course, there may be some way to make some money, but who knows? And I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this part of the segment as far as for the real estate transactions. So, as I mentioned, you see there houses, many houses for sale. Scroll through them here, and you have just several houses there. And I think that actually was Tupac's house, if I'm not mistaken, the one in Calabasas, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can just find that one there, and then we'll pretty much wrap up this part of the segment. So, Danny Boy, so he said Michelet stayed in North Hollywood because she was always getting drunk in the studio. All right. So we're looking for 4730 Calabasas. In Calabasas. Sorry about that. Can't find it here. Very interesting. Scene said disappeared. Disappeared on me. All right. So, anybody find it odd about these real estate transactions, or is this, or rather, I buy houses? Is this normal activity? And you can type in yes, you can type in no. You can give me your thoughts on it, whether or not it's legal, illegal, shady, whatever you want to call it, and we'll go from there. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. I appreciate you. Not a big crowd tonight. Never get a big crowd, but it is what it is. Just here to talk some Tupac things and whatnot. So, gonna keep searching here for it really quickly, and then we'll move on to the next topic of discussion. So yes, but some of it's done for some of it's done for shady business. All right, perfect. All right, let's see what we got here. Has anybody been has anybody been keeping up with any other Tupac news that is of interest or you find was interesting in any capacity? Let's see here. I like the fact that you look at all the angles. Well, I try to look at all the angles. Orange Soda's Revenge. I mean, this is just a common story that I don't think nobody's ever talked about. I mean, people generally talk when it mainly comes to Tupac, it's always really about his death. I mean, and who did it, whether it had been the Crips that did it, or whether it had been he faked his death, or whether it had been, if you believe, whatever it may be. There's all these versions of the story that they've been out. So who knows? I mean, my truth is not your truth, and the next person. So we're pretty much at that. And I've noticed as well in this community, if you don't agree with somebody's opinion, a lot of times you're wrong, and it becomes really vile and disrespectful, and it just becomes really crazy. So that was a house here, 4730, and I'm still looking here, and I can't believe that I didn't have the information for that, because this was the house that Tupac was living in, if I'm not mistaken. And at the end of the day, I don't even think he owned the house, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure all of you know that already. He never owned the house. So let's see here. And it is the house. It is the house. He lived there. So, and I'll read the last excerpts of this, and then we'll carry on. So Tupac Shakur's last house was 6,000 square feet mansion. And Shakur lived in the house from 1995 up until his time of his death in 1996. Through the house was leased for him by his label at the time, Deathrow Records. Los Angeles Times reported in 2000 that Shakur was in escrow to buy the house at the time of his death in 1987. Vanity Fair profile of the artist noted that the residence in which Shakur lived with his fiancée, Kadada Jones, daughter of music powerhouse Quincy Jones, was always filled with visiting members of Shakur's extended family and any friend who needed a bed. Outside the house, lyrics to Shakur's song Made, the last song he made an official video for before his death. Let no man separate what we created is etched in concrete. So it's a 6-bedroom house. So essentially, he was an escrow to buy the house. He didn't own the house quite yet, but obviously when he died, that all went away. So, good, interesting facts about Tupac's house, about Suge Knight's real estate, about all real estate. And beyond that, and here's another topic that I do want to bring up, and I'm basically just going to switch back to the scene on the top there, the first one. I'm not going to talk about that again, but it's come to light, and it's no mystery that a lot of rappers today don't like Tupac Shakur for whatever reason. They dislike him because they say that the only reason why he's a legend, and the only reason why anybody thinks he's a legend, is because he died too young. He died at the age of 25. And the same thing could be said for Notorious B.I.G. But I won't talk about Notorious B.I.G. because that's not what this platform here is for. It's for Tupac Shakur. So essentially, people always say, well, he died broke. So that's basically equals lack of success. Well, he died broke, but obviously when he died and he got his financial situation in order, his family did, started making a lot of money. Royalties started coming in, merchandise, movies, and he's still making money even to this day, as he's been dead for 20 plus years. And there's not a lot of rappers that have that longevity like Tupac Shakur did. So when it really irks me when I hear different guys, and I'll name some guys that come out and they say this stuff. You got this Lord Jamar guy, you got this Kodak Black, and you have all these young mumble rappers that are here today who just spit on his name, essentially. Say he was never the greatest rapper. And that's all subjective, right? Him being the greatest rapper is opinion based, so everybody has their opinion. But there's one thing that you can't ignore, and that's that his record sales are still there for being a dead man. His merchandise sales are still there for being a dead man. His estate, according to I Buy Houses, I haven't researched it, but I think his estate is worth $400 million. Okay? So essentially, his estate is worth $400 million. And a lot of rappers today, if they died today, whether it be the Suge Knights, whether it be, I'm sorry, I apologize about that. I'm getting caught up here. Whether it be Kodak Black, whether it be Takashi 69, whoever these new rappers are, if they died today, nobody would remember them 10 years from now. Nobody would remember them 5 years from now. So for them to talk bad about Tupac and say all these things about him, and it might just be clout chasing. It might just be so that they can get some kind of notoriety. That's what it could be. I mean, but for you to, talk about a dead man just to get some attention or whatnot, it says a lot about your character. So that's just something that's been on my mind for a little bit, and no one's ever really come out and really talk about it. But yeah, these new age rappers, they just don't have any talent, and they don't have any pool, and they will never be remembered 20 years down the line because they don't leave anything. They don't leave anything in remembrance of their legacy. So Tupac was actually, if you think about it, he's a revolutionary, right? In his own. And I'm not saying revolutionary as when you think of revolutionaries, you start thinking of these older guys who led revolutionaries, whether it been like American Revolution, American or Mexican Revolution, whatever the revolution may have been. He was leading a revolution in the streets, and that was to educate the gangs, to unite, to not kill each other, things of that nature. And that's kind of hard to do. And people can say that's hypocrisy because he went out there that night and he punched some guy and there was a crip. But that all comes with the territory as far as when you're associated with somebody, a lot of times it's guilty by association. You don't have to actually be part of a gang, but if you're associated with them, then you're automatically going to be a target. I don't care who it is or where you're at. And that's the way the streets are. So a lot of times you have to do what you have to do. So going back to Tupac, bringing people together, making movies, just a talented individual overall, all around, musically talented, and eventually he was going to evolve into something greater than what he was. He's probably going to step away from gangster rap music, and I'm sure a lot of you can agree with that eventually he would have done that. Because, of course, as people, we grow and we jump out of you jump out of your horizon. It's just like when you were 20 years old, you don't still think like you were 20 years old. When you're 40, you've evolved. You've gotten 20 years of wisdom if you're smart enough, and you grow. So Yeezy 808, welcome. I want to read some comments here, and I'll just keep continuing on with my conversation. So I'm not ignoring anybody. I'll just get to those just because I'm kind of in my train of thought here. So essentially, Tupac would have eventually got out of the rap industry. And if anything, if he didn't get out of the rap industry, he was going to be smarter and he was going to be the Suge Knight that Suge Knight was. And he was essentially going to start going finding talent, start promoting artists, and kind of making them do the work while he sits back and collects the checks. Because ultimately, that's what everybody wants to do is be the boss. Well, any smart man, at least, wants to be his own boss. Nobody wants to work for somebody for the rest of their life if they have the opportunity not to do that. So he would have started a publishing company, started a record company, probably would have started a movie company, distribution. He would have started something, but eventually he would have made a lot of money while he was alive. Instead, his family gets the money. All the music's come out. And speaking of all the music that's been actually leaked, I know that recently there was a large amount of music that was leaked, like 200 songs. Did anybody happen to download that, or anybody happen to listen to any of that music? And while we get somebody to respond to that, or a few of you to respond to that, I'll go ahead and read some comments here. So we have Whiskey the Don. If he had lived, he might have been hip hop's first billionaire. I certainly agree with that. He would have actually made a whole lot more money than Jay-Z. And Jay-Z's, in my opinion, this is my opinion, Jay-Z is a terrible artist. I don't like anything about his music. I think it's terrible. His beats it's typical New York hip hop. It's garbage to me. I'm not a big fan of New York hip hop, and that's just, I grew up on gangster rap, West Coast. It pretty much went in a timeline of West Coast rap to, at one point, Texas, down south rap. After that, it pretty much went to Midwest music, kind of like 666 crunk music. And then after that, it went right to, actually, I take that back. It went from Texas down south music to Florida bass music. And after Florida bass music, it went to the crunk music, Memphis, Tennessee. After the crunk music, then it went to New Orleans, which was the Master P's and Little Boozies and the Wet Boys and things of that nature. So, and then after that, it pretty much went to really everything all around. But it's never been a New York thing for me. I can't even think of one New York artist that I've ever liked. I just don't like them. They just have a different style of music. It's not intriguing for me. So I might have lost some people with that one, but that's just the truth, man. I'm not here to fit into the crowd. I mean, New York style music just doesn't appeal to me. West Coast music always been appealing, and Easy would have been another artist that would have blown up. And I always had arguments with people about they say that Deathrow Records is better than Ruthless Records, and they had a point to some degree, but obviously Easy died, and that was short lived. And Tamika Wright, who ended up taking over the company, didn't know how to run a record company, so essentially that if you really think about it, Ruthless Records never took off with another real big album drop from anybody. I mean, MC Ren didn't do anything on Ruthless Records after Eazy-E died. There's nobody else. There's artists like Hobson, and he did well after he jumped off of the label. Bone Thugs and Harmony was never ever the same again, even when they came out with another album. And they've never been the same even after they jump off the album. Bone Thugs and Harmony was never the artist that they were when Easy was alive. Easy was more of a conceptualizer, and he just knew music, and he just had a better strategy for marketing than Tamika Wright had. So I'm going to go back to reading the comments here, and then we can kind of carry on. And I'm sorry I kind of got on my soapbox there about music, but that's pretty much a synopsis of my music and what I listened to as I was coming through. And I'm sure you guys have your own music, and you can pretty much lay it out there, whatever it is that you do like. So Orange Soda put a link there for I'm assuming there's some pictures or something. And we already talked about that. First billionaire would have been Tupac Shakur for sure, no doubt about it. He would have surpassed Jay-Z. He would have surpassed Dr. Dre. And Dr. Dre's only a millionaire, and not because he's a music mogul. He's only a millionaire because of this, or billionaire rather. He's only a billionaire, or close to a billionaire, because of his sales Beats by Dre. If it wasn't for Beats by Dre, he still have a lot of money because, of course, he produced Eminem, but he wouldn't be nowhere near as far as the amount of money that he had. And obviously, I think if it wasn't for the Beats by Dre, he would have had to come out with the Detox, and not necessarily have to, but I think to stay a little bit more relevant in music today, he would have had to bring it out, and that's just my opinion. But now he doesn't even have to make it anymore. I mean, he doesn't have to work a day in his life. His kids don't have to work a day in their life. Basically, that's generational money. I mean, we can't even speculate whether it's third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. I mean, how far can $1 billion stretch? That's the question. So, new rappers just do fad music. It passes, so does their career. Absolutely, a lot of these rappers today are just one hit wonders. If you listen to a lot of their music, from the Little Yachty's to the Kodak Blacks to the Tekashi 6ix9ines. I mean, that's all nice music right now and here in the present day, but eventually 10 years from now, nobody's going to remember that stuff. It's just flyby summer day hits, and then they pretty much fade away. I mean, how many of you are still listening? I'm still listening to Tupac's Me Against the World album. I mean, it's been over, gosh, almost 30 years, and I still listen to the music, and it still sounds new to me every single day that I listen to it. And there are certain parts of songs, like, I don't know about you, but when I listen to music, I always like to listen to the background. I like to listen to, like, the percussions in the background. I like to listen to voice, like if there's any voices in the background as they're recording. Then in the recording studio, just all the small little details in the music when I listen to music, I like to just kind of pick up. And Machiavelli album, still a classic, never gets old. I listen to it all the time. And a lot of people, my girlfriend, she always tells me, "Why do you listen to the same music over and over again?" It's because it never gets old, and it's always entertaining. It's always great music. It's not as I mentioned, it's not the Little Yachties. It's not those songs you play one time, two times, or maybe even 10 times, and then you get tired of it and you move on to something else. This music has long-lasting value, and if you really think about it as well, is when real instruments are played. I mean, they were making music potentially. They were using Pro Tools if it was around back then. I'm not a music junkie, so I don't know what it was out there back then, what programs were out there. But a lot of music today is actually being made with, of course, beat machines, and then like Fruity Loops and other digital music making programs. It's not no longer, real instruments to a certain degree. It depends on if it's low production. If obviously if you're dealing with somebody who has high production value, they're using real instruments. So gonna keep going here, and we'll go ahead and read a few more comments. He was a baby, BLA soldier. To welcome Easy 808. Tupac was going to be what Jay-Z is right now, plus more. Absolutely. I do agree with you on that. The rap gods are giving out punishment, talking about Pac XXX died, Kodak Black in jail, 6ix9ine in jail. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could be their own karma, but ultimately, in this day and age, it's being a gangster and committing crimes and kind of trying to duplicate what Suge Knight did with Deathrow back in the days. It's not going to happen again. There's never going to be another Deathrow Records. I don't care who it is, what it is. There will never be another Deathrow Records. Let me tell you the reason why there will never be another Deathrow Records. Obviously, Deathrow Records was funded with drug money. It's no mystery. We all know that. We know there were several people that were involved in the investment of Deathrow Records as far as tying their money up and money laundering to get the company going, and as far as laundering the money to make it legit and to create great music. But at the same time, Suge Knight got wrapped up in the whole gangster mentality. And instead of just stepping away from that, it was more about having money and having power. And we all know when you have money and your power, when you have money and you have power, excuse me, you have a lot. And that's exactly what happened. That was his downfall, that mentality. So you have these young kids, Tekashi 6ix9ine and his group of gangsters, fellow gangsters, and they wanted to try to duplicate what Deathrow Records did. Can't do it musically wise. Maybe to the young folks that are out there listening, they were listening to this music and they thought it was great music, and it was kind of catchy. I'll give you that much. It was a catchy music, but long play value, not there. So anyhow, you can't be a gangster, and I've heard this on interview, and I've even thought it myself. There's too many cameras out there these days. There's too many people recording. There's social media now. Word travels faster than you know it. And before and back when, how did you get your news? You got your news from the newspaper. You got your news from the 10 o'clock news. How many of you have sat there and watched 10 o'clock news back in the day, if you can remember? I didn't. So a lot of times information got passed by. So if you weren't looking at the newspaper and if you weren't listening to the daily news, then you didn't know what crimes were happening. So that's the reason why they were able to get away with a lot of these things. And obviously intimidation. People wouldn't want to tell. People wouldn't want to do anything because they didn't want to face death row. So obviously, this whole plan by Tekashi 6ix9ine's crew about being the new Death Row Records basically blew up in their face, and now they're all gonna face federal time. And we all know federal time is 90% mandated time spent in prison. There is no deals. The only person who's gonna get a deal is the first person who talks. And guess who the first person who talked? The first person who would send everybody away to do his crimes for him? Well, you know it is Tekashi 6ix9ine. So essentially, he's gonna walk free. Now, will he be a free man forever? Never. He'll never be a free man forever. The reason why is because if he's out here in the real world and he doesn't go into a federal witness protection program, he's pretty much dead man walking. For sure, dead man walking. He wouldn't. I don't even care if he had security. He's a dead man walking. So, as far as Tekashi 6ix9ine, you'll never hear from him again after this. He'll never be an artist again, in my opinion. And that's pretty much that. So we'll pretty much go down the list here, and I think we're probably at 55 minutes and 34 seconds, and then I think we'll probably wrap it up about an hour and a half. So it's been an interesting topic tonight. Maybe not the real estate portion of it, and maybe not anything else, but everything else has been great. Some great comments from you guys that are out there listening. Anybody have the score right now for Portland and Warriors game? I'm not sitting in front of a TV, so if anybody can chime in with that, that'd be pretty cool. So, has it ever been confirmed that Pac got $45 million from Quest Records? Quincy Jones label. I don't know if that's ever been confirmed. I don't know if that's ever been a fact. I think that was just something that was. Are you serious, man? The Warriors won. What the man? At one point, the Portland Trailblazers were winning by like 17. How many did they win by? Whiskey the Dawn. Oh man, this is gonna suck. So essentially, if Portland doesn't go over there and win their 2 games, the series is over, dude. I'll just put it that way. So, anyways, going back to that, I don't think that's ever been. I don't think that's ever been verified. 45 million. I mean, I'm sure if he was leaving, that would have probably been public. As far as him leaving, him leaving has always been skeptical. I think he was leaving the record company. I think he was tired of their crap, not him paying. But I don't think that if let's say he was leaving, then I think it would have been well known that somebody would have at least known. His mother would have said something, or one of his closest confidants would have said, "Hey, he was leaving a Quincy Jones label for $45 million," or unless Quincy Jones has come out and publicly said it, but I don't think he has. So I don't know if I can stand behind that. So let's see here. But to answer your question, I don't know the answer, so I can't. I know Young Noble said that he was about to be the first artist. Heard HQ OG tracks, best quality yet. No unheards though. Heard HQ OG tracks. Oh, that was the Tupac. So did nobody answer this question? Did anybody download those 200 songs plus songs that were leaked out on the internet? Anybody? Is there a link for that? Bone Thugs was it. Atlanta has been running the music industry for a while, hence today's gay hip hop agenda. You know, I've heard that question. I've heard that remark by a lot of people that there's a lot of gay people in Atlanta. I know there's a high ratio of like women to men. I think it's like 10 women for every man. But I also heard that there's a lot of gay people down there. So there might be some. I mean, I'm not here to. I don't have anything against gay people. You know, I'm just saying. I mean, I've heard that that's been a rumor. So let's see here. So Warriors won, Golden State won, and then here's the lawsuit. So I'll read the lawsuit later and figure out where that is. So Trey Smith asked, "Do you think?" I'm sorry. Do you think Little Half Dead will ever be prosecuted? Be prosecuted for what? I don't know. Will he ever be prosecuted? I don't know if he will be prosecuted. You got to be more specific in as far as what he's going to be prosecuted for. I can't tell you. So where you D L from them from? I don't know what you're saying. What is that? All AKA all day. So you put nope. I just got what JMX gave us on a live broadcast, which was cool. What did he say on the broadcast that was cool? I haven't spoke to JMX in a while. Like I said in the last live stream, he's doing well. He's like I said, he's enjoying his family. He's just taking a step away from the Tupac scene. He's kind of just tired of the back and forth with a certain person who keeps mentioning his name and keeps spreading rumors about him, and there's no truth. And I'll come out and say this, and people can say whatever they want. But here's one thing that you gotta understand is that you got another side of the another side. We'll just say the other side, who all they do is there's one person. He never lies. He never tells stories. He's always right. And basically everybody's crazy. Everybody's a liar except for him. Now, to me, that's a true narcissist because if you don't, we all lie. Everybody lies. And everybody tells stories and everybody does certain things. This guy, though, he always perpetrates everybody else's to be a liar. So, anyhow, point is that you can't always believe what people say and what people spew out there. And a lot of people just suck it up, man. They just believe it. Like this whole thing about him doing drugs and all this other crap. That's all malarkey. And the thing is that when you have people who don't like somebody, it's easier for them to accept a lie about somebody else that they don't like rather than open up their mind and actually listen and actually investigate and actually ask questions about that. So a lot of that is just speculation, and I'll pretty much leave it at that. I've had my name mentioned a few times about a few things, and to be honest with you, I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I don't live their life; they don't live my life, and I'm glad I don't live their life. I'm living a life. Just put it this way: I'm living a life of freedom, baby, a life of freedom. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll go to the next. And okay, so I buy houses. I got it. I got what you said. There was a link to that thing. So sorry, but for being involved with the murder of Tupac along with the Patton brothers. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, to each their own as far as what that could be. I mean, I'm not going to speculate on who could have killed Tupac or who didn't kill Tupac. And that's pretty much what it is. I mean, a lot of people don't believe. I would say it's a patent theory. It's not the little half. It's a patent theory because they're the ones that wrote the letter purportedly. So I don't have an opinion on it, what one way or another. I make videos. I do research. I have my own beliefs, and what I believe is what I believe, and what you believe is what you believe. So if you believe Keefe D and Orlando Anderson killed Tupac, that's great, and they tell a great story. But a lot of those details are out there already. And of course, Keefe D's gonna keep telling the story if he's gonna make money off of it. Why would he retract his statements? And why would he retract his story when he can just make money if he knows he's not going to be prosecuted for it, right? Supposedly he didn't do it. I mean, right now, the Las Vegas Metropolitan PD they have the confession in the book, right? It's sitting on the shelf right now. It's on Amazon. It's for $10 on Amazon. It's $24 on Amazon. So they can spend $10 and they can get the truth if that's what they want to believe. Obviously, if they read the book and they don't arrest the guy, then there's something wrong. They don't believe the story, right? I mean, he got federal immunity or he got state immunity in the state of California. Okay, they wanted to know about the Biggie situation. He offered up the Tupac situation. So he offers up the Tupac situation, and essentially he's opened up a can of worms for prosecutors in Las Vegas to go after him. It doesn't matter if people are dead or not. It's all symbolic, right? So essentially, what would they have to lose to prosecute him? It's not going to be this long, drawn out trial. It's not going to cost a lot of money. I mean, you got the guy's confession, right? I mean, that's what people say. His confession's there, so they have it. This wouldn't be a hard case to prosecute, right? But obviously, it's still open. It's been open. They didn't even believe Great Kane's theory, 2011. Think about that one. If they thought that story was real, then they would have already come at Keefe D already. I mean, he came on the show a few years ago and said that supposedly he was in the car. They didn't come after him then. So here's my point. I hate to beat a dead horse, but if Las Vegas believed Great Kane's story, if Las Vegas believed Keefe D's story, the three stories he told one to Great Kading, he told one to R.J. Bond, and then he told one in his book. So he flip-flopped 3 times. Okay? Las Vegas has the evidence. It's there. Go get him. But there's a reason why they don't go get him. Because this is something bigger than Keefe D and 3 other guys. Details are out there already. The story. Just go with it. You're going to make money. If you knew you were going to be prosecuted for a murder and you can write a book about it and just keep going with it, whether you did or didn't do it, why not? You're not scared of anything. You're not scared that nobody's going to come after you. So, and that's correct. At the end of the day, whether you believe the patent theory, whether you believe Keefe D and his fellow gang members killed Tupac Shakur, whether you believe he faked his death, or whether you believe a police officer named Kevin Gaines may have killed him, $10,000. I don't know. $10,000 seems to be common. What's going on, Big Cass? Hey, man. Thanks for coming in. I hate to kill my train of thought here, but if you want to listen to some good material, you want to listen to some good, just good talk, good overall channel, good guy, very positive, go to Big Cass TV's channel, subscribe to his channel. is actually one of the guys I support. I like his channel. I listen to his stuff all the time. So if you get an opportunity, go listen to him. Subscribe to his channel. So I'll read some more comments here, and then we'll pretty much wrap it up. Probably at 11:30. Don't want to talk anybody's ear off. So we have um, sorry, but for being involved, he gave us a link to this. The drop of the OGs, where you download them from. Are they on YouTube? Where's download? So JMKAZE, have you watched Chaos Merchants on YouTube? That was a bunch of Russell Poole's investigation details that came out after he died. 313 started a lot of drama because at the end of the day, it's all speculation. It confirms the suspect, and it's all theories. Yeah, I would say that. Oh man, you bet Big Cass. As I said, go to his channel. Watch his channel. He has some good stuff. He's a good guy, man. So anyhow, yeah, it's all speculation until they confirm a suspect. But here's the thing: how come Las Vegas, whether or not they believe the story or not, or whether they just want to wrap this thing up and just say, you know what, it's over, it's done. Tupac, we know who the killer is. The killer was XYZ. But you know what? We can't prosecute anybody because everybody's dead or everybody's in jail or whatever it may be. Then they would have just come on and just said that. It's easy for them to say that. It's happened before in past cases. It's happened a lot of times where people they close cases because they just the suspect's dead or whatever it may be. The person's in jail or the person, whatever. Who knows? Point being is that if you believe Keefe D's story, you believe his story. If you believe Greg Kading's story, you believe his story. If you believe he's alive, go for it. You can believe anything. Oh, and going to Whiskey the Dawn, the Chaos Merchants. Yeah, I did read that. I didn't read it. I'm sorry. I apologize. I think there was somebody who narrated the whole book essentially, and it was pretty interesting. But speaking on Russell Poole, and we'll bring up Russell Poole right now. Russell Poole has nothing to stand on as far as he, in my opinion, he was an honest police officer. And what I mean by he has nothing to stand on, and what I mean by that is that the reason why people say that is because he wasn't given a chance by his superiors to investigate it even further. Okay. And I think that if they would have let him investigate it further, and no matter if he would have gone to dead ends, whatever it may have been, if he would have got to a dead end and it would have come out that it wasn't a police officer that was involved in the Biggie killing, then it would have been like, okay, you're good. You know what? Are you satisfied now? You've investigated it. Now go away. That's it. No more. And then we could have put that out in publication. Not we, but people would have put that out in publication and said Russell Poole chased a lot of dead ends, right? It didn't happen that way. You know how it happened? Was that his superiors told him, get lost. We don't want you investigating this any further. We don't want you to do that. Stay away. And then they started harassing him. And he was so heartfelt about this, the investigation, because he knew that there were some police officers who were corrupt and who were involved in that murder. And essentially, they didn't let him investigate anymore. They told him to get away. So why wouldn't they let him investigate? That's the question. And that's the reason why I say that these naysayers and all these people who say Russell Poole was a bad cop and he was delirious and all this other, they can only say that. They can only make those statements because he wasn't allowed to investigate the police department. That's strange to me that he wasn't allowed to investigate the police department. We know they're dirty. We know that. But the people who support the police department, LAPD specifically, their interest, these guys are heroes to them. Russell Poole is not a hero to them. Russell Poole is a bad cop. He's a bad cop. That's what they say. They say he's a bad cop. But his record doesn't say, it says otherwise. He solved 150 plus murders. He always lived by code of honor for his what he alleged his allegiance to the police department. He always, it was black or white. There was no gray area. But guess what? LAPD didn't see that. Protect them, protect their fellow officers. We went from Rodney King beating to the LA riots to the Rampart scandal, and then we started figuring out, there was so much evidence against these police officers of wrongdoings that a lot of this stuff was pretty much sandbagged, stored away, settled, case closed, purged, because they didn't want the public to know what the real scope of the corruption was. You know how much money they would have had to pay? Even more if people were put in jail falsely, or people found out that what the LAPD really stood for at that time. And a lot of people's jobs are on the line too. You think people are going to care about a police officer trying to solve a deceased rapper's murder and have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to settle a case? Or you think they're just going to get rid of the problem, and their problem was Russell Poole? So a lot of people will say, oh, he was a drunk. He was this, he was that. There's no evidence of that. And even if there was evidence of that, that doesn't discredit his police record, his duty, who he was as a police officer. That doesn't discredit his integrity. That doesn't discredit all the cases that he solved with integrity and wasn't involved in any kind of activity that could be labeled him as a corrupt police officer. So people can say he was a drunk, but what else? You have nothing else. There's nothing else you can say about him. You can't say it. No one can. And that's the point that people don't get. The people that are smart say, you know what? He was a drunk. Okay. And what? How many murders did he solve? Was he a decorated police officer? Yes. Was he respected by his police department? Yes. Would he have solved and would he have gotten David Mack and Rafael Perez in a corner? Absolutely. Yes. But we'll never know that because his superior said, get lost. So, there again, Russell Poole had a lot of great information, but to the naysayers, he's a liar. He's a drunk. You can't discredit the person, so you attack them. And that's pretty much all they can do. So, I think that Russell Poole is a great police officer. Don't know him personally, obviously, but I can honestly say that just from the outside looking in, I'm sure he had a great record, and I'm sure that he felt so strongly about David Mack and Rafael Perez that he was willing to quit his job. And not only that, but who these are stories that we'll probably never know, but he's probably was getting harassed and probably just messed with all the time by different people in his department because they saw him as a traitor. Because a lot of times it's brotherhood. In the police department, it's brotherhood. In the military, it's brotherhood. If you're in the military, it's brotherhood. If you're out there in the sands and you kill somebody, if you're in Iraq and you kill somebody and you're out in the desert and you're with your comrades, you don't expect them to tell. And if they do, then somebody's going to get hurt a lot of times. Same thing with the police department. But in this case, it couldn't kill him. So the other option was to go ahead and harass him out. And that's what happened. So let's see. I'm going to go down the list here and read. Sorry I went on a tangent about Russell Poole, but he was a good police officer. And I think more people should recognize that. And don't listen to these idiots who say otherwise, that he wasn't. So he was a drunk. Okay. He's a drunk. All right. What else? You don't have your record. He didn't do what you did. So I'm going to make him less of a man. So I'm going to segue into these questions. We'll pretty much go to there. So Whiskey Don says, I don't think Vegas cares, unfortunately. Well, if Las Vegas doesn't care, then Las Vegas would pretty much to just come out and say, hey, we know who did it. We ain't going to come on record and say who did it, but case is closed. It's a wrap. Call Las Vegas Police Department today and ask them if the Tupac Shakur case is still open. They're going to tell you yes. And then what you should tell them is, and it'd be pretty interesting if somebody records this, maybe me, calls them and tells them, if you believe the Keefe D story, why don't you read the Keefe D story? Then you can arrest him, and let's see what kind of reaction we get from them. They probably know that that's not true. But anyhow, so we're gonna do a few more comments here, and then we're gonna pretty much wrap it up at 11:30. And I appreciate everybody being here. I see some new faces that are in here. Whiskey the Dawn, Orange Soda's Revenge, Lakers fan 23, Big Cast. Thank you for. I think this is your first time being here. Thank you for being here. And as I mentioned before, if you have an opportunity, go to his channel, listen to his content. He has some good content. He has some positive vibes over there. So it's not a channel that, you usually go to these channels and there's people just talking bad about somebody all day. But no, this channel is legit. So I'm gonna read some more comments here, and then we'll pretty much wrap it up for the night. So we have. Sorry, it's just kind of hard. These things are just coming here. So all right, gave us a link. 313. Okay, I don't think Vegas cares. Fortunately, it says can't see me fooled Vegas Deathrow the world with million pairs of eyes. You don't have to subscribe to my channel. Just watch my uploads. You can go to his channel. It's okay if you want to promote your channel here. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to promote your channel, go ahead and throw your link up. Throw up some kind of whatever it is that, bad signal that you want to promote your channel. It's all right if you do that here. This channel right here is not about, suppressing anybody's beliefs. Whatever you guys want to believe or whatever, go for it. You drop your channel or whatever. Keefe D said Reggie and his dad are dirty. D-Rock picked David Mack out of a lineup in 1998 and put him. Lakers fan 23. I know that you had put that in the last one about the D-Rock picked David Mack out on the lineup. If you want, put the link to the article so that people can go and read it. I mentioned before, and I think we'll do in the next upload, is this junk science, essentially. To me, what it looks like, the person who got into the car and the Chevrolet SS Impala, it looked like David Mack with his wig on that he wore in the bank robbery. But if you also look at it and you do a little bit of junk science, you can kind of see that the top of the hood of a car is a certain height, and the certain height of the person that actually ducked into the car before the shooting started. You can kind of measure that up and see, if it's a tall guy, obviously, it would be someone like Amir Muhammad. If it was a shorter guy, I guess anywhere from, I think David Mack is 5'10", 5'11", and supposedly, I think, if I'm mistaken, Wardell Pucci was 5'6", 5'7". So if it's anywhere higher than 5'6", 5'7", obviously that would eliminate him. But it's just junk science. It's not, actual to scale or whatever. So, all right. So Russell Poole, he wasn't a drunk. I agree with you, but some people say that he's a drunk. People just make up stuff, just to make themselves feel better about themselves and their current life status. They killed that poor dude for knowing too much about the underworld, which involves crooked police bringing drugs and guns into the black community to create genocide. Well, we know that the police are bringing in guns and drugs into California back in the late 1980s. And, of course, the crack dealers were bringing drugs in. CIA was using the money to fund the Iran-Contra war. Oliver North testified to that, so that's no mystery. You got Ricky Ross, Michael Harris, those guys that were involved in laundering the money that was from the drug proceeds to fund that war. It's no mystery. If you don't know about it, go read about it. It's the truth. If you ever watched Kill the Messenger, which was with the individual, I don't remember his name, but he actually came. He actually is the one that broke the story about the CIA funding the actual street gangs in Los Angeles and California with the drugs so that they can sell it to get the money, the funds for the CIA Contra war. You can read about that later. But if you get an opportunity to watch the movie Kill the Messenger. All right, so his record proves it all. He had a great record. Yep, you're right, Kaz. Just I just bought Once Upon a Time in Compton, the book by Tim Brennan and the Compton Cops. Okay. Whiskey the Don, is that was that book any good? I heard it was a lot of fiction, especially with the whole, you know, dramatic, you know, sensationalism of this gun that was found in a backyard by a dog, and then it was sent to Las Vegas, and they tested it, and it came out that it wasn't the Tupac murder weapon, and they destroyed it, and then they say it was. It's just a bunch of baloney. I mean, these stories get more and more embellished as we go. So ex FBI Phil Carson says it was Amir Perez and Max. So does Russell Poole and Randall Sullivan and Clayton Hill. So that would be interesting to get FBI. Phil Carson's when his book comes out. I know he came out. There was some recording about it, and he mentioned a lot of stuff about the FBI task force and how they didn't believe Greg Kading, and of course, Phil Carson gets attacked with he's crazy and he's nobody. Russell Poole, he's crazy, he's nobody. So that's the way the other side they react to all that stuff. So Amir was there. Witnesses put Amir there. Mac and Pettis there. Nobody put Wardo Fuji Faust there. Nobody saw him. Not one single person, by the way. They're not arresting him for a reason. They know it's not true. They had to get rid of Russell Poole, or else a lot of other cops would have went down, would have lost a lot of money. Period, point blank. I have it screenshotted. All you have to do is type in Mir Muhammad online and read the article about D-Rock. If you have Messenger, I will send you the article. I don't have Messenger. I have no social media. I just don't really have time for it. And the job that I do and who I work for doesn't allow me to have social media because there's certain things that we do. So all you have to do, okay, yo, Never Obey, welcome. Never Obey, welcome. And let's see here. So if you have a Messenger, okay. If you listen to Little C's 911 call when he big got shot in the full length call, he says it was an aquamarine, blue Impala on the stock car colors that came with it. It looked black at night. Snoop Dogg is suspect. You've been on long. I've been on for about an hour and a half. One of the stock colors, Whiskey the Don. Two witnesses also said black. I know that there was a couple of people who said that the car was black. I mean, it was dark at night. Who knows? It's a pure speculation at this point, depending on who you believe. That could have been. Let's see here. Haven't read it yet, but it got a lot of good reviews. I have the article screenshotted about D-Rock picking David Mack out and Amir Muhammad, Harry Billups online, and having it screenshotted. Do you have Messenger? I don't have Messenger, but you can. All you got to do is just right click on the top HTTPS, which is the hyperlink on top of your search engine, and your browser rather, whether you use Firefox or Google or whatever, and you can just right click it, hit copy, and then hit paste, and then you can paste it here in this chat board. There's a notification. I actually sent a notification earlier today, actually a live event reminder for everybody who was there. So I don't know if everybody got the notification. I know that YouTube hasn't been really putting out notifications for certain channels. I don't know what it is. I mean, there's a lot of censorship going on right now with YouTube. I mean, obviously Google owns them now, so it's not the same thing. And I always get people, I've had people say, well, it's because, you're exploiting Tupac or you're trying to make money off of Tupac. And I always tell people, what money? There's no money in YouTube. I mean, dude, you make like 5 cents or 20 cents or something like that from each stream. I mean, that's no way to make a living. I mean, I don't know, 20 cents a day. I mean, it's not going to do it, obviously. So some people are just stupid. They don't know any better. The people that are making money are the people that have like millions of subscribers or hundreds of thousands of subscribers or even thousands of subscribers, but get big hits on the actual stream and then have people that do the, what do you call it? The chat, the Cash App or the whatever the chat or whatever it may be. So it's not about exploiting Tupac. I mean, people are making money off Tupac. I mean, people were selling bootleg T-shirts. They've had the same bootleg T-shirt, the same size for like the last 2 years. It never sells. It's like every time it seems like there's always one more. No, there's one more. There's one more. There's one more. So, I mean, whatever. So, I mean, I think we're pretty much going to wrap it up. Probably give it about another 5 minutes. And just to give you an update, we'll do live phone calls next go around. So if anybody wants to call in, I'll have a phone number. You can call in whether you believe my theory or whether you believe your own. I mean, we can have a constructive conversation and nobody needs to attack. I mean, we haven't had one of those. We had a live stream where people called in and we had some person call in who was kind of strange that didn't really make any sense. But great caller called in. Jamar Hatton called in. Very intelligent guy. He is sounds like he expanded his horizons a long time ago. And then we had, I think, a guy named Ti who I haven't seen around in a long time. And then we had Tori Shelsky, who pretty much speaks his mind on anything and everything. So, have you heard any new news on Suge Knight? No, I haven't heard any new news. The only thing that I've heard as of recently, of course, you have the guy who loves to hate him, who is DJ Vlad, who every chance he gets, he pretty much talks down on Suge Knight and interviews people who don't like Suge Knight and pretty much has them spell out everything that they ever did, that Suge Knight ever did to them, and all the crimes that Suge Knight was involved with, and pretty much DJ Vlad's like being going into a police interrogation without knowing it. He just pretty much ask you questions to kind of um, shed a bad light on somebody who can't even like defend themselves and or whatever. I mean, we're talking about like history and then of course you have other people that are calling Suge Knight a snitch. He's a snitch and all this and other, and just talking bad about him. But like I said, when the times were good and the money was rolling in and people were getting money, it was all good. Everything was great. And as soon as the money stopped and whatever else, then Suge Knight became this bad guy, and nobody liked him, and nobody likes him now. And it pretty much kind of spells out what it is that those people are really about. But anyhow, nobody will really talk about why he's a snitch or why they hate him so much. It's like, just get over it, man. Like, what is it? What do you do? So Michael Franzese was getting annoyed. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Vlad's like the biggest Suge Knight hater. I mean, I think if Vlad could drink Suge Knight's piss, I mean, he probably would. I mean, that's how bad it gets. And I'm just being sarcastic when I say that, but it just seems like every single interview he does with everybody, it's always Suge Knight this and what did Suge Knight do and yada yada yada. So that's pretty much it for tonight. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. Like I said, we'll have a few phone calls that'll come in. Certainly you want to call in whether you believe whatever theory you believe in. You can call in. We can have a constructive conversation, whether it be about Tupac, Suge Knight, Deathrow Records, whatever it may be. I mean, if there's anybody in the chat room that's here right now that would volunteer next time to potentially call in and speak your mind or whatever, you can certainly let everybody know. Never Obey. Yeah, you missed the whole show, man. I'm sorry. So just to recap, Never Obey, quick synopsis. Basically, it was about the thoughts on Keefe D's book, if anybody went out and bought his book, and if they believe the story. That was one of the topics. And then the other one was K. Michelle is to record on the new Deathrow Records. I don't even know if that exists. Deathrow Records even exists anymore. I know E1 owned Deathrow's catalog, but I don't know if Deathrow is even a label, an actual label anymore. And then we talked about Suge Knight's real estate, all his real estate transactions, all his houses, and kind of like selling back his real estate to Michelet and selling his real estate to Tammy Hawkins and selling his real estate back to Norris Anderson and like for $1,000 and $10,000 and $10,000 seems to be the magic number, and we all know why that's the magic number. The people that oversee federal, the transactions, they step in if there's over, too many that are over $10,000. dollars, and they'll flag that. But if you do it under $10,000, then it's you know, you're good to go. You can do small transactions, 2,000, 5,000, 7,000. I mean, come on, you learn from some of the best. I mean, they've spewed it out on the live chats. You know, the best way not to get flagged in a bank or by anybody is, or any illicit activity, is to do it in 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, $7,000 increments, and nothing over 10,000. So, but I wouldn't know anything about that because I don't get involved in that kind of stuff. So I appreciate my freedom. So we have, I believe, Russell Poole. I believe Russell Poole too. I think he had a lot of valid points. And let's see here, because he was in jail telling people how Dre wanted us to have him killed. That's a snitch. A real gangster says nothing and handles his business in the street. I mean, to each their own, man. I mean, if somebody's trying to kill you, it's like, okay, if you're in jail, I mean, you have to figure out a way to try to get back. I mean, but we don't even know if that story's true or not. I mean, that's, pure speculation. I mean, unless he actually came out and said that Dre, you know what? I take that back. He did say that. But I mean, come on, man. Someone's trying to kill you from back when. It's like, I mean, what do you got to lose at that point? You know what I'm saying? So Lakers fan 23 put the article out there. D-Rock picked D-Mac out of a lineup. You can read that. Never obey. So we talked about the real estate transactions, and then we kind of just went into the whole, just Russell Poole and things of that nature. Just opinion-based stuff. People have been kind of commenting like who is the killer, who could have been the killer. Some people, I think, without saying it, some people thought it was Keefe D. I mean, like I said, I'm not here to bash anybody. I don't believe that story. We talked about Las Vegas Metropolitan PD not believing the story of Craig Kading because they never went after him, and obviously they have Keefe D's statement, his confession supposedly, and they still haven't gone after him. So that was pretty much the show there, and we're just kind of just reading off, talked about Tupac, what he would have been, things of that nature. So their link is there, and also, so yeah, Lakers fan put his link there. Do you think he has a dime left? A dime left? Suge Knight, yeah, I think he has money left. I mean, to have all those millions of dollars and not to have any money left. I mean, come on, Dave Kenner and Steve Cantrock. I mean, Steve Cantrock was funneling money out of Deathrow, and he was putting it in other places, and they finally caught him. And essentially, he was robbing Deathrow blind because obviously he was a CPA, he was accounting. So they basically were cooking the books, and then they found out about it, and Dave Kenner was taking money. Suge Knight had to take money, and maybe potentially the best way for you to hide money and take money and put it away is to invest in real estate. I mean, I buy houses, would know more about that, but I mean, you can take millions of dollars and buy millions of dollars of properties, and then you can just let it grow. I mean, I wouldn't say it would be out of the realm that David Mack, the $722,000 that he stole, because you remember the $722,000 that was stolen was never returned. They never found it. So I think his comment was that he had put his money away and that it would grow. So I would say there's potential there that maybe he put his money in real estate, and if you put real estate in other people's names, it can't be linked back to you, especially people that they don't know they're associated with you. So that could be a theory. Money, and I'll just spell it out. Maybe David Mack put his $722,000 in real estate deals. So Suge Knight too, potentially. But I still believe he has money. Now, I don't think he has enough money to where he's able to, he was able to mount some kind of defense where he was going to pay millions of dollars to hire lawyers to fight his case for him. I think it was a losing battle for him, especially when they caught the two lawyers, soliciting witnesses and trying to pay them to, I guess maybe disappear or to testify otherwise about what they saw that night. I'm sorry, what they saw that day, the Tans Burger joint. So millions of dollars Suge Knight has? No, I don't believe that. But maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars? Maybe. I mean, I would say so, for sure. But obviously he can't spend it now because he's spending prison. But he won't spend the whole 28 years in prison, I can tell you that much. I think the parole board is pretty much gonna, at some point, they're gonna grant him parole potentially. I think. I don't think he's gonna do that whole time. I think state time is like essentially depends on when you get to that point where they're gonna let you free. And there's certain people that are let free a lot earlier than their sentences. So, yeah. So I'll read a few more comments and then we'll pretty much wrap it up. So, um, also talks about David Mack bragging about it and a lot of other stuff. But he portrayed himself as a big bad gangster who hated snitches. Cool, thanks. Suge shedding light on this stuff. I don't mind that he's speaking out. The fans need to hear it raw. I think. Let me ask you a question, and this is, and we'll pretty much leave it at this, and this will be the last question of the night. I'll read a few more comments, and then we'll wrap it up. But everybody who's in the chat room right now, serious question for you: if Suge Knight comes out before, let's say that he's on his deathbed, something happens to him in the next, few years or whatever, and he comes out and he specifically says that Keefe D killed Tupac, would you believe Suge Knight? And that is the question for the night. If Suge Knight came out and said that Keefe D killed Tupac, would you believe him? And while you're answering those questions, I'll read the last comments, and then we'll hang it up. But I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I appreciate everybody joining the show and lending your comments, your thoughts, your views. It's always welcomed. So we'll see here. Yeah, Suge was no idiot. I'm willing to bet he got offshore accounts. I wouldn't doubt it. Kenner was dirty. Yeah. Well, the good thing, I say the only thing that really saves David Kenner is that he's a lawyer and he knows. I mean, he doesn't have to talk. He doesn't have to say anything. Pretty much his silence protects him, essentially. Some people don't have that luxury. He was allowed to keep it. I felt sorry for him. All right. Suge got money somewhere, and David Kenner was probably draining him or during the trial, so he figured it out and fired him. Good. I hope not. They will try to kill him again. Okay. Talk again. I think it was strange how Amir, David, and Pettis never came out and denied the claims. I thought it was strange too that they never denied it. I mean, anybody who didn't do a crime, I mean, I would say that it doesn't even hurt them to say, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. But they pretty much stayed in secrecy. Essentially, when the judge excused them from the Wallace trial, these dudes just packed up and hit the road. They didn't look back. I mean, you had that one guy who, I think his name was Tony G. I don't remember his name, but I was the one that actually found that video of not David Mack, of Rafael Perez at the airport giving rides. He's a chauffeur. He drives limos, and I think he drives luxury SUVs for, I think it was Harry Weinstein, and for some other people too. So it begs the question, like, does he own that rental company, the fleet rental company? That's I guess that would be another way for you to put your money, invest your money, is to own your own luxury fleet, limousines or whatever. So, and he didn't even want to talk on that one. I mean, he was like putting down the visor, and he was like avoiding asking questions. But you knew that was him, though. It was Rafael Perez. Well, his name is Ray now. So that was a pretty cool video. It was kind of good and not good to see him again. So, all right. So let's see here. So I don't believe Orlando just killed Pac for the beatdown. It was bigger than that. So you believe Orlando killed Tupac, but what do you think? Why do you think he killed Tupac? You think that, you think somebody hired Orlando to kill Tupac? Is that what you think? You think Tupac was gonna shed some light on Deathrow Records, all the inside info that maybe the feds were gonna? And I think that was a story that I heard somebody was saying, and I was like, that's. I would say it's far fetched, but maybe kind of parallel to what Takashi 6ix9ine. He knew all the inside info, started snitching on everybody. So Tupac knew all the inside info. He's gonna start snitching on somebody. That's the only angle I could see somebody hiring Orlando Anderson if you believe Orlando Anderson killed Tupac. So like I said, to each their own. So let's see what we got here. A few more questions and and then we're gonna hang it up. So I'm sure he saw everybody in that Cadillac, in the Cadillac. Oh man, who was in the Cadillac? Interesting. Does anybody believe Kevin Gaines could have been possibly involved in the assassination of Tupac Shakur? Anybody? I would think that if a police officer was involved, it would have been a really hard case to solve rather than just an average gangbanger. I don't know. Let's see here. That ain't happening because he ain't do nothing again at that point. And besides, it's not true. But Pac ain't dead. Oh, they never obeyed. Pac ain't dead. I can't believe that no one saw a white Cadillac the next day driving back to Cali when it's the biggest breaking news. It blows my mind. I don't know. I mean, you would have thought the police would have been hot. They would have been out on patrol. They would have been like, okay, let's figure out who this person was who got beat down. Let's see who it is. Let's see if we can ask around. I mean, there could have been a lot of police tactics that could have been used to find somebody. I mean, a lot of times when people commit crimes, like, man, they go searching like door to door. They go searching like high and low. They don't just like say, okay, well, this guy got shot in the boulevard. Let's just, call it a night and just, not do anything. And I think that was just the lack of police work um, that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police, they just did a poor job of investigating this. I mean, they had all the evidence supposedly that it was a white Cadillac or a white car, blah blah blah, and then they could have went back to the tapes, started looking at the tapes, started figuring out okay, who these guys, whatever. They could have all these things. Like I said, searching high and low for these guys that were in a white Cadillac or white car or whatever, and we're gonna go searching everywhere, you know, all out. They didn't do that though, so just poor police work, and it's evident. It's evident. So let's see here what we got. So nobody saw a Cadillac driving back. Okay, so but supposedly somebody saw somebody driving a car into a body shop. They saw a car driving in the body shop, but nobody put two and two together, and nobody called the cops. Okay, that's great. Orange Soda, remember, Suge said that they tried to get Pac as a trophy, but they didn't, meaning they didn't kill Tupac. No, Suge confirmed the confession letter and even suspected Snoop Dogg and his cousin of being involved. Also, it's a coup d'etat to take over Deathrow. Suge ain't never gonna say Keefe did it on his deathbed because he has nothing to gain at this point besides not true. I think it was set up, the whole fight, by that guy, Kenner, and that woman. This stuff is getting old, Orlando. Oh my God. I really believe Orlando was paid to be at the MGM. I kind of feel like Orlando was, I mean, he just was out of sorts. I mean, he was walking by himself, and just out of those thousands of people that were there that night, him and Tupac end up having to cross paths. And then again, on the boulevard, they end up crossing paths again. I mean, that dude should have played the lottery, or he should have played something that was worth millions of dollars, because he probably would have won, because the odds of him running into Tupac 2 times in one night, I mean, man, those are astronomical. So I believe he was put there by somebody. I don't know who it was. Who knows? But he just seemed out of sort. He didn't seem like that he belonged there. I know they had been going to these fights supposedly, and they had been doing this for many years or whatever. But this guy was by himself and just walking through nonchalantly. And then by the graces of God himself, they cross paths, and Tupac socks him, and he all these guys beat up Orlando Anderson, right? All these guys beat him up. But Orlando Anderson doesn't go after any of those guys. He only goes after Tupac. I'm gonna kill Tupac. I'm gonna kill the guy that kicked me like he was kicking a field goal. I'm gonna kill him. I'm not gonna kill the guy that kicked me in my ribs, but I'm gonna kill Tupac, who pretty much gave him a small little sucker punch. So anyhow, so yes, definitely 100%. Games could have finished him off. Finished him off. Chris Nassif, a Hollywood talent agent, also confirms what Suge says. Reggie also said he didn't know about the fight, the MGM, to the shooting. I don't believe that at all. I find that kind of odd too. That didn't know about that. You know, I always ask myself why that. I mean, it just seems unbelievable that nobody in an entourage after that fight, not one single person called anybody at the club and said, "Hey, we just got into a fight with these guys." But I thought, if I'm not mistaken, I heard that guy, whatever his name is, James, say that his brother called him and told him that they had been in a fight and with the South Side, and they never mentioned that to anybody that needed to know that information inside the club. You know, mainly the people that were protecting vodka and liquor bottles inside the club. So not one single police officer on Tupac Shakur, just a bunch of ragtag gangsters. You know, all the police officers at the club. So let's see here. If it's true the FBI had him under surveillance that night, they have what happened on tape. If something really did happen, it was a white Caprice Classic with fins covering the back wheels. JMX introduced the producer, Rick something, who said DR thought it was a narc-like car. Where was all his buddies at the fight? He was by himself. Definitely put there. If you look at the fight, nobody was really hitting Orlando. Scratch my head, his kicks were missed. You don't call the head of security after the fight. That's what I say. I mean, I just find that kind of strange that you wouldn't call the person who's in charge of, you know, coordinating all the security efforts. You know, I have a little bit of experience in some of that stuff, but not in a civilian world out there, you know, in the green zone, if anybody knows anything about that. And I mean, a lot of this stuff was coordinated, but maybe, I don't know, maybe people weren't just as smart as we were. I don't know. So you don't call. Okay, so Russell Poole even checked the tapes to MGA bar, and he confirms that while Pac got shot, Orlando Anderson was the bar during that time frame. My biggest question I want to ask Vegas PD: why isn't Orlando considered a suspect? They never said why. They said they have a video of him and he could have done it, or where they just didn't want to check alibi. I don't know. That was another weird thing too. It was, I mean, they said that they had this evidence or whatnot, and I mean, and essentially, they could have eliminated him as a suspect, and I mean, they essentially, I'm sure they did their whole, you know, their due diligence, and obviously there wasn't enough for them to arrest Orlando Anderson, even accuse him of a crime. And to this day, not one police officer that was involved during that time, Kevin Manning, Brent Becker, any of them, and even they're retired, they have nothing to lose. What are they going to lose? What are they going to get in trouble with? They're retired. None of them have come out and said Orlando Anderson did it. None of them. So ask yourself the reason why none of them have ever said it for. None of them say they believe Greg Kading's theory, and I've already talked about it tonight. None of them believe that. None of them have said anything. So, I mean, if they were so strongly, if they believed the stories about Greg Kading or even whatever, Keefe D's book, then they would have come out and said it. Obviously, they didn't. So it's not of any interest to them because they know that there's something else that's there, and it's not what they say it is. So, anyhow. So the manager of the MGM testified against Suge, Annette Machuca. Yeah, I believe that was Trey Smith. If that was true, then I believe when I called his boys to tell him what happened, they told him to stay and establish an alibi while the others look for him. That was a setup so Pac would violate his probation and DR could extort Pac out of his money. They owed him lawyer fees while he was fighting for his life from a cell. They would never kill a cash cow. Orange makes sense. I just think that Orlando Anderson was basically put there, not put there, but he was he was there by himself. He knew exactly where Tupac was going to cross paths. Somebody gave him that information. He just didn't happen to land in a in a lucky spot, and Orlando Anderson was magically there. Orlando knew exactly where to go, where they were going to be at, knew where they were going to cross paths. So somebody told him to be there. Somebody paid him to be there. You know, we never know who could have said, "Hey, meet me here," and they had an underlying agenda, and they knew that they were going to cross paths. And it's a perfect story if Orlando Anderson's there, because it becomes the most, I guess, obvious 2 plus 2 equals 4 for people to believe that Orlando Anderson did it. But obviously, Las Vegas Metropolitan PD didn't believe him. And the only people that believed it was Compton. Well, was there a vetting interest there from Compton? Who knows? But I mean, a lot of people can speculate and say what they want to say. I don't believe Orlando Anderson did it. I believe he was there for a reason, and we'll never know because Las Vegas Metropolitan PD will never come out and say case closed. If Las Vegas Metropolitan PD comes out and says it's case closed, then I'll leave this Tupac thing alone. I'll close my channel and I'll go away. And I'm talking about officially come on and say that, not some stupid article from some publication that doesn't even exist or some dummy made up so that try to get a kick out of me getting rid of not just me but just people in general just to whatever be stupid. But when they officially come out with official spokesman and say that this case is closed, they know who killed Tupac, and they give us a name, then I'll stop talking about Tupac. I'll hang it up. But I don't always talk about the assassination of Tupac. I talk about other things as well. But that's my take. So a few more questions and I'm out. Sorry, 11:54. Won't go past 12 today because it'll be a 2-hour stream. We started at 10 o'clock and it's going to be 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. I'm in Chicago. Anybody wants to shout out where they're from, go ahead and do it. I know where Neville Bay's from. He's somewhere from New York State. Lakers fan. I don't know. You got conflicting messages there. You got a picture of Michael Jordan. You have Lakers fan. So that's either clever marketing or I have no idea. But we so we got a few more. I can't stop talking about Tupac because I'm making too much money. I'm making so much money. Yep, off these super chats, which I've made $0 off of. The stream makes about 5 or 10 cents, and I just talk about Tupac because it's a love for his music and for him as a person. And as I mentioned before, he was taken away from us too soon. I mean, we didn't really see his full potential, even though we see the things that he's done, and it's really cool to see that still alive. Like I said, it's going to be 20 plus years later and we're still hearing about Tupac, and it never gets old, and a lot of people are coming out and telling a lot of stories about him that were unknowns, and it's just very, very fascinating. And like I said, the music never gets old. It's always good to hear. It's just unfortunate that he had to pass too soon. So, and I mean, if anybody could have kept his legacy alive, it would have been Suge, but he got into some trouble. So it'd be interesting to see if Suge ever gets out and sees the light of day, what he would do to see if he would ever resurrect another record company, or if he's just too old for this already. So I don't know, but all right. So why did he tell Frank to lie to the cops about chain snatching? If you have nothing to hide, no reason to lie. I have no idea. Trayvon Lane, believe, was confidential informant number 3. Trayvon Lane was confidential number 3. He never talks, so we don't know. Pac had surveillance DR the whole time. They knew about it against my stage and shooting. Donating to FX. I think you mentioned that. That was something to do with Kobe. You can't stop talking about Tupac, dude. You make too much money. According to Corey Edwards, Orlando's cousin, while he and Orlando were at the bar, he confirmed that Orlando really wasn't upset about the beatdown. He just wanted a fair one. So it goes from a fair one to a shooting. Picture that. They are. Pac would have protests, most likely. President of the United States. Secrets of War. Rules version. Number 4, blasphemy. Number 2, Kevin Hackey knows what happened at the hospital as he was the third person involved. I think Kevin Hackey knows a lot. Obviously, he's not going to talk anymore just because I think that he just wants everything to go away. He doesn't want to be involved anymore because really, if you think about it, even if somebody had some fruitful information about the Tupac case and they accused this person and that person, and we all know that it's been really, really hard to get the gears turning for the police department to even investigate or reopen these cases, to really go full throttle and investigate, the murderers, the potential suspects, rather, for the killing of Tupac Shakur, or even the police department in Los Angeles to reopen the case and really give a full effort and do an investigation on the Notorious B.I.G. So people just kind of see it as all for naught. Why risk my well-being and come out and give information if the police department is essentially not even going to reopen the case or even leak my information of who I am and what I do. As we've seen in the past, people's information was leaked, like Michael Psycho Robinson and a few other individuals whose identities were revealed out to the public so that they could put these people in danger. So the sense of having some kind of confidentiality kind of flies out the window. So a lot of people, even if they have information, they just don't want to talk anymore because they just feel like it's not worth it. I mean, what are people going to gain if they open up Tupac's case and they figure out that it was somebody else other than Orlando Anderson by popular opinion? People would think that Orlando Anderson did it. I don't think he did it, but if somebody else that was involved and they don't want to get tied up into this whole, having to worry about their livelihood because they give information that accuses somebody of killing Tupac or orchestrating the killing of Tupac or whatever you want to call it. Same can be said for Notorious B.I.G. So until people become brave enough and the police do their real due diligence and actually go and do an investigation, real investigation, and actually prosecute some people and put some people in cuffs, then we'll never know what happened. So we can only speculate at this point. But as I mentioned before, if you want to shut the people up, the masses, then you just come out and you just say symbolically, we know who did it. We know who killed Tupac. We already identify this person as XYZ. That's it. No more. You can still make your speculation, but we know who it did it. So they haven't done that, and they've had 20 plus years to do it, and they haven't done it yet. So it goes to show you that there's something else involved and somebody else is involved. And a lot of times when law enforcement are involved in crimes go unsolved unless it's very obvious. But a lot of this is not obvious. A lot of it was very secretive. And there's a lot of mystery behind it. So, because you'll get people that'll be like, well, the one police officer did this in another police department, he got arrested. Well, yeah, that's probably because they had him on tape and they had a ton of witnesses saying he did it or she did it. But it wasn't like this whole night of like nobody snitches, nobody tells, nobody does this, nobody does that. This whole mystique around this whole story about what happened, this happened, that happened. And, people were just afraid to talk. So, all right, well, it's 12:01. I'll read my last comments here and then we'll pretty much hang it up. But I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I think I'll do another live stream here soon, probably this weekend. I just got to dig up some topics about Tupac, something that people haven't really talked about. And it's not always going to be these juicy stories, not always going to be the best stories, but it'll essentially bring the community together to kind of voice their opinion on what it is they believe or don't believe. So, all right, so that would be a trip if Keefe was a shooter, but he lied in the proffer agreement and said Orlando did it because he knew they could never prove it. I mean, that could be a valid point. I mean, as he was the third person involved. Trevin was involved. Kevin had to run for his life. I have that thought before whiskey. Kevin Hackey was threatened to not testify in the Wallace case. He went from knowing everything to being able to remember because of medicine. Yeah, that's true. True Lakers fan. That info leaked, got Mike Robinson beat down and stabbed really bad. Yeah, and he died of a heart attack only at 49. Chuck Phillips should be shot. Oh man, some of these comments make me laugh. If Orlando wasn't really upset about beating, then it would have seemed like he had a revenge motive to kill Tupac. Hackey was probably going to say LA cops were involved and LA County was, and nope, you ain't gonna pay. You ain't gonna say that in court and get us sued for millions. They get him paid off. I think they'd kill somebody before you testify against, before you try to make somebody else pay for hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, I've seen some strange things happen in the past. One day the truth will come out and we will all know why I did it. Tupac. Have Dead was Tupac and Gaddafi is dead on the album cover. That album cover was kind of strange. Very strange. And I'm actually the person who discovered that album cover, by the way. I'm the first person who discovered it, and I actually publicized it out there. So, yeah. Hackey did say they were involved and flat out said that Amir and Mac and Perez and Nick Broomfield's Biggie and Tupac won't be solved, but we can get the truth. Cool. Yeah, that album cover speaks volumes. It does. There's a lot more evidence and proof that Biggie's case is easier to solve. Yeah, I believe there's a lot. It's a lot easier to get to down to the truth on the Biggie case than it would be the Tupac. And I say because there's a slew of liars in the Tupac case. I'm not saying there's not a slew of liars in the Biggie case, but pretty much the police officer had it nailed down. So yeah, that's that. So anyhow, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I want to say thank you to Jamar Hatton for being here, Orange Soda for being here. Clever name, Orange Soda. Sunkiss, I don't know what that's a reference to, but cool name. Lakers fan 23. I think you like the Bulls too. You're just tricking people into believing you like the Lakers. Never Obey, always here. I think we both have uncovered that Tupac is dead, but of course, he lives in our hearts forever. We have and Whiskey the Dawn. Thank you for being here. I want to honestly say that I think you believe the Keefe D story, and that's nothing bad, man. I appreciate you being here and being respectful and getting along in the chat room, and everybody can appreciate that. I mean, even the Boss Knight 773 thinks Orlando did it. That's cool. I mean, that's like I said, to each their own, man. We're just here to have constructive conversation. So as long as they don't get vile, everybody's welcome here. Even the worst of the worst. And most of the worst of the worst people that I've had on here, I've already blocked them. I've had like about 50 people blocked, and I think it's great. It's great that happened. So. And Trey Smith, thank you for being here too. Big Cast TV, as I mentioned before, go watch his channel. He has a good channel. He has some good topics. He talks about a lot of things. So I appreciate him being here. I Buy Houses, thank you for being here. AK All Day, thank you for being here. I think I said Trey Smith already. Easy 808, thank you for coming in. And I believe Chris MB Burke, thank you for coming. So I think everybody coming through, everybody. Thank you for coming through. I don't have a big audience because I only have 1,600 subscribers. And I think that I probably could get more subscribers and have more audience if I would promote on social media. I'm not going to do it. I just don't believe in it. Like I said, my job doesn't allow me to have social media, just, information that I'm not can't share. But but yeah, I mean, essentially my source of being known is just through being in the community or whatever. And sometimes I have my opinions on things or whatever, but I've learned to just kind of get along with everybody. We're all here to live. We're all here to learn from each other, and obviously we all have opinions about things. So thanks everybody. So yeah, you welcome. Never Obey. Appreciate you being here. I stayed a little bit longer because I know that you were late to the show and wanted to, you know, whatever. And thank you for the link, Lakers fan. Appreciate that. Pam Donahue, thank you for coming here. Pam Donahue, advocate. Um, Whiskey the Don, thank you for being here. So let me ask you a question before we leave. Whiskey the Don, are you have any association with Gunsmoke the Don? Those names are pretty close together. So Amy Carter, welcome Amy Carter. Orange, what's crazy? The BMW clock turned 4:03 when he said that. The Shakurs and the BLA comrades know what's up. Orange Soda, I'm starting to think that, and I could be wrong. I'm starting to think that Yuri Cini. I could be wrong, but or Jimmy Poole, one of them. But not that's not a it's not a slight towards you. It's just I don't know, putting two and two together here. Peace and blessings, Pam Donahue. Cool. So we'll probably do a live stream Sunday because I think everybody's busy on Fridays and Saturdays with their families, and of course, people working all week. They gotta have some R&R rest and relaxation. So we'll probably stream Sunday, if not Monday. I have to dig up a topic, and I think that's pretty much it for tonight. So anyhow, appreciate you being here tonight. Let's see here. Last comment. Did y'all hear about how Pac's last pick in the BMW has no keys? It's true. Check it out. I don't believe so. I think that was like one of those push keys because I've driven a BMW that year, '96, and they had that push key, the one you push into the actual slot. It's kind of like the kind of car I drive. You put the key, the little fob, you stick it into the little slot. Okay. All right. All right. My apologies, Orange Soda. That I didn't know. I just even if you were Cini, man, I don't care. I mean, I think Cini's kind of crazy, but hey, to each their own, man. So make sure I get the notification. No, that model of BMW was just a small key. I don't know. I think it was maybe the key, the fob with a little ring, and then you pop it. You pop it in, kind of like I said, my key, the kind of car I drive. I stick it in the little slot there and push it in. So, anyways, thank you for being here. I'll put a live stream notification either for Sunday or Monday. Just remember, all times are central for now because I'm in Chicago. But as I move along through the United States, there'll be different time changes, east, west, whatever, mountain, whatever it may be. So appreciate everybody being here tonight. Thank you again. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and as I always mention to all of you out there listening tonight, always seek the truth, no matter where it takes you. Have a good night.